Welcome to the build that nearly destroyed me. What's up everyone, my name's Ollie and welcome to Barely Building, where today we're tackling this monster, a nuclear waste barrel big enough for nearly 400 machines, almost 20,000 pillars, hand-placed shapes wrapped around a cylinder, vents, accents, waste spilling from the rims. But first, we need to go back about 30 hours. Fuel rods are online, the logistics are ready, but none of it matters until we have somewhere to put all the waste. And today, we build the thing that makes the entire project come to life, which is the housing for the nuclear waste. Quick stop at the community wall. We've got a few new names added, and I think I fixed the ones that vanished when I mixed up the save files. If you should be here but aren't, tell me and I'll get it sorted out. Drop a comment and a sub and I'll get you onto the last spots on community wall 1.0. Right, onto the build. We're using this stretch of water out here, and the plan has always been to drop a massive uranium waste can right here. And yeah, another circle. Why do I do this to myself? My rule for this playthrough has been to use vanilla building tools only. So we're going to start off our circle by building a star. So we'll grab a foundation. We're going to nudge it around rotation 2 times. We're going to drop that down into the foundation. And we're going to extend out for now. We'll go to 19 foundations. And we'll just keep repeating this until we have a big ring with little spikes coming out that's going to give us our outline. And we went out to about 19, and just to get an idea of scale, my friend Rob did some maths and said make it 83 tall. Not sure how he got it, but somehow it works, and this looks like a really good height. So we're going to go with this. The next step with this build style is to run a rail from the exact center. We'll go for a couple of foundations and we'll run it to the exact center until we go around and have a full circle. We then take out the foundations from underneath the rail, and we can grab a large concrete pillar, and we can very carefully go around and place these underneath, directly snapped onto the bottom of the rail. And eventually we end up with this nice big circle of large pillars. We've just put a couple of machines in here for scale. We need to fit about 400 machines, so this is looking good. And I did the math. This is 220 large concrete pillars in circumference, and this is 83 total high, which means we're placing 18,260 large concrete pillars for this build, which is why my stream last week looked a lot like this. But when it's all in, we have this mad looking yellow cylinder that's a bit of an eyesore, so let's start thinking about decoration. And I spent some time staring at a uranium waste can, and honestly, at the scale that we're building, this design is a little bit boring. I think we're going to move on to plan B. So instead, I took a look at a plutonium waste can. And design wise, this is much more interesting. So I think we're going to do a kind of hybrid between a uranium fuel can and a plutonium fuel can. So we'll change this blue out for like a uranium green. Just because of the scale, we'll probably use some of our own design ideas in there just to make this look as cool as we can. So to get us started, let's take a look at these sort of raised accents that we've got up and down the barrel. Let's get those in first. And I just knocked this blueprint together for the top. So we've just used some half foundations to create this sort of step effect, which from a distance will look great. And it was just a case of removing some of these foundations out, grabbing the blueprint, dropping it on top of these foundations, and working our way around the outside of the uranium waste barrel until we've got all of those in place. And not complicated, just time consuming. That's all in. So let's make a start on the rim around the middle of the barrel. And it was just a case of adapting our last blueprint slightly just by adding these extra foundations on top, measuring out for a little bit of scale, and then just placing those in around the outside. And we're starting to get a little bit of depth to this build now. The next challenge is filling in these kind of vents across the top of the barrel. 220 around means about 6 gaps at 36 apart. We have 3 vents to place, and it looks about an equal gap. So we're leaving a small bit of space at the top, and we've put this dark grey colour in for the background. Then it's just a case of framing it in some painted beams, very tediously placing one beam at a time to make sure that they all connect nicely. As this is round, we can't just run a beam directly across. We have to go one at a time. And we get there eventually. It's all cut up and nice looking. I'm pretty happy with this. So now we get to move onto the triangle. And I really wanted a nice thick outline for the triangle. But no matter what I tried with pillars, I just could not get them to connect nicely going across the cylinder. So I ended up settling just with painted beams. And from the center line of this grate, I grabbed a freeform beam and just sort of sketched out the shape that we want the triangle in. And then it was just a case of running small sections along it, making sure we keep the line nice and straight. And eventually we end up with this triangle. And from a distance, this looks absolutely fine. Up close, we can see some kind of issues on the join, but we're never going to see that. And it's honestly, this is the best I could come up with after a crazy amount of hours trying this. And now it's time for the part that took even longer, which is designing this nuclear symbol in the center of the triangle. But through the power of editing, I can make it look like that I had this planned out all along and I knew exactly what I was doing. It was at this point though, I thought I should probably start thinking about how I'm going to replicate this another 2 times around the outside of the cylinder. So we're going to start taking some notes of some measurements. And to start the circle of the nuclear symbol, we're going to come down 80 meters and we're going to use that as our center point in the middle. And the way I designed the circle was just to grab a painted beam. We're going to run it up 2 meters, grab a small pillar, nudge that up onto the top of the beam, delete that pillar out, and then we can just take a beam in diagonal mode, run it up to the corner of this pillar, attach another pillar to the bottom, nudge that into place, and rinse and repeat. And I'm going to give you a small tip here from my building style. We have a slight imperfection where these pillars don't exactly line up. The radius of this circle is far too small. But if you repeat an imperfection often enough in a build, it becomes a feature. It becomes part of the design and it will make it look brilliant. And once we've finished filling in all of those small concrete pillars, you can see what I mean, that we've made this pattern kind of repeatable. Becomes a part of the build. And in terms of our build, from a distance, you can't even tell. So we're more than happy with this. I'm going to leave the center open just for now, because we're going to use this to measure out how we're going to build the fins of this nuclear symbol. So I'm going to go about 10 meters out. We'll run a beam down 10 meters this way. We'll go into freeform mode. We'll go about 10 meters that way. And we'll go about 10 meters that way. It's not going to be exact, just because of the curve. They're going to slightly different places. But this looks like a good edge for the nuclear symbol. And it's as simple as, for this, we're going to grab a beam. Just run that somewhere out of the way. We're going to grab a concrete pillar at the top. We're going to nudge it down 4 times. And then we're going to zoop it 6 times. And with a bit of paint, that gives us our rough size of what we're going to do. And a similar style, we're going to take a painted beam in diagonal mode for this one. We're going to run it down and nudge it across 1 tick. Delete this foundation, place another one onto the new angled beam, nudge down 4 times, and then zoop 6 times. And when it's done, how awesome does this look, right? I'm so happy with how this turned out. And the last bit of thing to do for the side is we need to stick some uranium spillage coming out of this grate at the top here. I grabbed a few placeholder signs with this nice uranium green that we want. And it was just a case of literally sketching these out, chucking them in, and trying to make a nice looking uranium spill down the side. And I did do this on a live stream, so a bit of shameless self-plug in here. If you want to join in with how we make some of these builds, head over to Twitch, drop a follow on there. I do stream on YouTube too, but you can hang out while we do these builds. And from a distance, we get this really cool glowy uranium spill effect coming down outside of those grates. And I'm not going to lie, there may have been a bit of blowing one's own trumpet here on the live stream, because this just looks great. And then it's just a case of placing it again and again, and I'm done. This was one of the most mentally taxing things I've ever built. And I mean it now, no more circles. Next time we get the logistics in place for this build so we can start actually getting some machines down, we're going to deal with the water and the train lines. And the rest isn't too bad. The very real big ones is 4,000 limestone and about 3,000 nitrogen gas. But the rest is not too bad at all. But we do need to figure out how to get a train across this gap here. I have big plans for this space right underneath me here, so we need to make sure we don't interrupt this area whatsoever. But for now, guys, we are done. Please consider a sub if you are enjoying the playthrough. I do hope you've enjoyed this crazy build, and there is many more to come. I'll get you up on the community wall. Just comment to let me know you've subbed. Until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.